The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
All right, a couple of quick things to get to before we get into today's show. Number one, I have here with me the one and only, Lewis, black David Pakman Show t-shirt made from 100% recycled materials. This was a test shirt, and I just wasn't happy enough with the definition of the logo, which may not even be visible on camera, over the black, so we didn't make these into a regular production yet. But as of now, there is one brand new, tag still on it, black David Pakman Show shirt. It's a size small. I don't know what we should do with it. So many people ask for black that I feel like we could do some kind of giveaway or some kind of fundraiser or something with it. I just don't know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, if you have ideas, let us know.
Yeah, let me know. Go to davidpakman.com, contact us. We'll do something with the one black shirt.
I'm sure everyone's dying to get their hands on the only black David Pakman Show shirt in existence.
It's the most popular color demanded, and unfortunately, it's just not one that we're able to offer right now.
Especially among metalheads.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of metalheads who like the David Pakman Show.
Who are mostly liberal.
Yes.
Todd Akin, he's the Republican Senate candidate who said that if there's a legitimate rape, the body can just shut the whole thing down and you don't get pregnant. He's issued some kind of apology. It's a bogus apology where, didn't you say, Natan, that the apology almost really just confirmed his initial statement?
Yeah, I mean, from my understanding, and I heard the clip, he just said that he used the wrong word, that instead of legitimate, in legitimate rape, he should have said forcible.
Right.
But we already knew that that's what he meant.
Yeah, so basically, it doesn't change anything about what he said. It's one of those bizarre non-apologies.
Right. He said, that's not what I meant. I just used the wrong word. It is what I meant, but I used the wrong word.
It's like I apologize that people were offended.
Right.
Same type of thing. We had all morning conflicting reports about whether he would get out of the race or stay in. The latest, literally from seconds ago, coming off across the wires. You know, honestly, I don't even know what that means, coming across the wires. I just know that on TV,
the internet,
it's sometimes used that something just came across the wires. But what wires they are, and if it's the same, if the wires are the tubes that late Senator Ted Stevens referred to as the internet, maybe it's the tubes that they came across. I don't know.
There are wires involved.
Needless to say, we have now heard that Todd Akin plans to stay in. Okay. I got a bunch of emails from and Twitter messages and YouTube comments from the people, the conservatives that like to troll us regularly. And the argument about Todd Akin was not defending what he said. It was saying, wait a second, have you even heard of Todd Akin before today? Kind of like the argument is in the sense, he's not a guy that you were really paying attention to before he said this outrageous thing, so why are you making a big deal out of it now? Which is kind of a weird argument to make, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we're glad he said this because it brings to the attention of the country that this man might have a shot at
being a senator.
Can you imagine?
It's a horrifying thought.
Right.
I got another funny message saying, listen, if it's a legitimate murder, the body will shut the bullet down and it won't hurt you. But if it's not a legitimate murder, then it won't and you'll actually be killed. Yeah, it's about the same thing that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry. If you're not guilty of anything and you don't deserve to be murdered, you're bulletproof.
Yeah, it's not a legitimate murder. The bullet won't hurt you.
Right.
In the early days of the 112th Congress, Todd Akin, when in the House, introduced H.R. 3, okay, entitled No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act. Now, this is the act where he actually wanted to introduce this idea of forcible rape into law, redefining rape as Republicans wanted to do. This section of the bill was eventually struck out by the House before they passed it. However, when it was originally proposed, the language of forcible rape definition was still intact. Do you know who one of those co-sponsors was that really liked this bill and that actually got behind it? Let me give you a hint. What, Natan?
I actually heard this earlier today, so I'm going to refrain.
Oh, okay. Well, it's Paul Ryan. He's now running as Mitt Romney's vice presidential running mate. Paul Ryan thought that redefining rape, which is something that Todd Akin wanted to do, and we now know the context under which the thinking that makes up the context of Akin's deciding to include this, Paul Ryan liked it. Paul Ryan was in favor of that. So again, yet another piece of evidence that makes us wonder, why would even one woman vote for Paul Ryan? I don't know.
Very good question. Or one person who's married to a woman.
Right.
One man is married to a woman. Yeah.
Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, or as Rush Limbaugh refers to him, Ahmadinejad, he is now saying that Israel is a cancerous tumor that will soon be finished off, indicating soon Israel is going to be destroyed. He says, quote, the Zionist regime and the Zionists are a cancerous tumor. Even if one cell of them is left in 1 inch of Palestinian land, in the future, this story of Israel's existence will repeat. He also said that Iran's nuclear program is peaceful. Obviously, when someone is saying that a country is going to be finished off, why wouldn't you believe them when they say that their nuclear program is peaceful? There's no conflict there. There's no concern.
Very strange. I will say that Israel is a very small country, and given the appropriate firepower, you wouldn't even need a nuclear bomb. So I think it's kind of moot.
That's an interesting comment as well. Regardless, the idea that a guy can make a statement very casually that Israel will soon be destroyed and also say that his nuclear program is just for peaceful purposes doesn't really make any sense to me.
No. Clearly not a trustworthy person, gathering what we know about him from his entire career as president.
Ahmadinejad also calling for Obama's birth certificate long form, translated and notarized in Farsi.
This is the same guy who said there are no homosexuals in Iran.
Yeah.
That was a classic.
He's clearly trustworthy.
Yeah.
Now, Israel's Channel 10 reporter Alon Ben David is saying that Benjamin Netanyahu is determined to attack Iran before U.S. elections. This would be certainly a monkey wrench in the American election. So without speculating about the minutia of the Middle East effect, what effect, if any, would Israel attacking Iran have on American elections, do you think?
On American elections, I don't know. Would it change? Would it change the discussion over here?
Here's my thought process on this. Let's say, okay, if Israel attacks Iran, do you agree, Natan, that the U.S. will, even if they don't openly, publicly come out in favor, there will be an implied acceptance or lack of acceptance based on comments that are made?
Yeah, I think for Israel to go ahead with it, they'll probably need to receive some sort of a tacit or secret approval from the U.S. I would agree with that.
So let's operate under the assumption that if the U.S. does not come out and denounce a potential Israeli strike on Iran, it will be assumed for the purposes of this discussion that the U.S. at least tacitly approved of it, okay? Two ways that this could go. On the one hand, there are going to be some who are opposed to any kind of acceptance by the Obama administration of any military action being taken there, who would otherwise vote for President Obama, who might rethink that if the U.S. is seen as kind of agreeing with this move by Israel if it happens. The thing is, they're not going to vote for Mitt Romney because Romney clearly would have done the exact same thing. In fact, he probably would have pushed it. He probably would have proactively approved of it as opposed to just kind of tacitly behind the scenes approving of it. So I really don't think that it's going to move voters from Obama to Romney. I just don't see it. On the other hand, there may be some undecided voters, and I'll talk to you about those in a second because I don't think there are very many, who would say, well, I was leaning towards not Romney because I thought he was stronger on national defense, which is a bogus idea anyway. But let's say that's what they thought. Obama seems to kind of be in agreement with this. Maybe I'll vote for Obama instead. I don't know. But I think it's a net marginal positive for Obama, to be completely honest.
Hard to say. I mean, it will definitely become part of the discussion. You'll remember when Obama was running against McCain, the question was, if you find Osama bin Laden, will you go after him? Or will you continue to pursue him? And, of course, there are questions about the war. Will you pull the troops and whatnot? But I think this could have a serious impact on the discussion over here. How it will affect either candidate, I don't really know.
A new poll from USA Today and Suffolk University indicates that President Obama is leading big among those who are unlikely to vote. President Obama leading Mitt Romney by a 2-to-1 margin, 66 to 33 roughly, among voters who say that while they favor Obama by a 2-to-1 margin, they are unlikely to actually vote in the polls in November. This shows yet more proof for what I've been saying for a long time, which is that not voting is not a neutral act. Lewis choosing not to vote is not a neutral act which confirms his displeasure with the voting system in general.
Hold on,
hold on a second. There is one party that specifically doesn't want you to vote and knows that they have a better shot when you don't vote. That's the Republican Party, and this poll again confirms that.
If you support, so what you're really saying is if you support Obama, not voting is not a neutral act.
No,
that's not what I'm saying, is it, Natan? I mean, what I'm saying is very...
I think what Dave is saying is that among people who are not likely to vote, many more support Obama. So the Republicans don't want people who don't want to vote because it'll be worse for them.
Let me put it a different way. Many of these voters who don't vote say they don't vote, and Lewis has basically said this, because it doesn't make a difference and nothing ever gets done. Maybe that's because you're taking the action that Republicans want you to take, not voting.
Nothing. Come on. Do we have to go through this all over again?
Listen.
We don't have the time.
First
of all.
Let me just state a fact. With a very small percentage of unlikely voters becoming likely voters, President Obama wins in a landslide because of the disproportionate margin by which he is trouncing Mitt Romney among these people who have an opinion. They have an opinion of who they would support, but they just don't care enough to vote. A small percentage of them vote, Obama trounces.
Okay, well, perhaps the Obama campaign should focus on getting people to vote.
Like you.
Well, it's not going to work on me.
In this particular case, that's true. In Massachusetts, it's going to be Obama will win. Fine.
I still don't think you can say that without factoring in the personal motivation of the people deciding not to vote. I mean, you can't just make that blanket statement. That's just not fair.
Along these same lines, if women's turnout increased by 10%, landslide for Obama. Just 10% increase in women's voters, landslide for Obama. A related story. New York Times article saying, are there really undecided voters? We talk constantly about these undecided voters, the moderate independents who don't know who they're going to vote for. And the New York Times article astutely points out something that we've really been suspecting for a long time, which is that there aren't really that many undecided voters. There just aren't.
No. I've never met one, to be honest. Have you?
Well, the article point, I have met a couple, yeah, but I thought they were lying to me, to be honest.
And because they didn't want to get into a debate with you, probably.
Many self-described independents, close to half, according to surveys, reliably vote for one party or the other. Many true swing voters live in states like California, Texas, or New York, where the portion of independents is just not enough to really swing the election based on how many people vote. So when you eliminate the so-called undecideds that live in states that are not close, and when you eliminate the undecideds who, they say they're undecided, but when you look at their voting record, they always vote for one party. It's either Republicans or Democrats. If you take those out, the actual number of bona fide undecided voters in swing states where their vote could make a difference, where the swing could make a difference, is very, very small. Polling experts say it might just be 3% of the electorate.
So negligible is what
Negligible.
You're saying.
Now, if we concentrate on those swing states, if we were to concentrate that 3% in the swing states where it would make a difference, you are talking about a group that could make some swings in one or two states, and it could change the electoral vote count. The reality is these undecideds are really distributed throughout, and it's actually it's a much smaller portion of the electorate than most people think.
Right. I find it hard to believe that anyone could be, considering how different the two candidates are, I find it very hard to believe that anyone could be somewhere in between and undecided about what's going on, unless they really know nothing about the two candidates.
And a lot of people do know nothing about the candidates. They just hear things about Obama's a socialist or he's Muslim, and that doesn't sound good to me. And I wouldn't really consider them undecided. I would consider them uninformed.
Right, exactly.
Which is very different. Uninformed Republicans are not undecided. Right. Let's take a break. Great bonus show today. We'll talk about advertising reaching a new low, advertising on toilet paper, plus a lot more stuff. Lewis produces and hosts the bonus show. DavidPakman.com/membership. Get the bonus show. We'll take a break and be back after this.
The David Pakman Show at DavidPakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Want to say hi to a brand new David Pakman Show member of the day, made possible in part by liberalbias.com. Lewis, you may not realize this, but there is some evidence that penguins are liberal. In fact, it might be part of a conspiracy to make people scared of global warming. Find out more at liberalbias.com. Those crazy conservatives, it's crazy.
Unreal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, very special hello to Mike Hipp. Mike Hipp, a new David Pakman Show member. It's great to have him aboard. And what else can I say? Every single day, it's one of the best parts for me, saying hi to these people who really are, people may not know this, membership is the #1 funding source for the show. So every name I say is literally keeping the show on the air.
They're really members of the family.
I would say.
And they get to participate in the member call-in and ask us questions.
Right. Next one is coming up just a couple of weeks away.
Yeah.
So you got to sign up, davidpakman.com/membership. Virginia Republicans are calling for an armed revolution if President Obama wins in November. Now, of course, the Republican Party is the party of peace and nonviolence and only using guns when absolutely necessary. I guess this must be one of those times. According to the Virginia Republican Committee newsletter, President Obama is a, quote, political socialist ideologue, unlike anything world history has ever witnessed or recognized, and that the only option is armed revolution should we fail with the power of the vote in November. So try to win the election, but if that doesn't happen, then just start killing people with guns.
That makes sense.
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
They also go on and say that, the other thing, by the way, if one is confused as to what Republicans consider a political socialist ideologue, the newsletter says that the reasons for that is that President Obama shuns biblical praise, handicaps economic ability, disrespects the honor of earned military might, and that under Obama, the government is out of control. The government is out of control. What does that even mean? This is one of those things where you do those videos where, Susie Sampson or whoever it is goes up and talks to these right-wingers and says, specifically in what way is the government out of control? And then you hear the mumbo jumbo. I mean, these are the types of arguments that are instantly fall apart merely at one question, one follow-up question being asked of 90% of the people who subscribe to this stuff.
Well, that's fine. I mean, what is this? This is propaganda right here.
It's literally propaganda,
Yeah.
and it's not the first time, Lewis, in recent history that Republicans have called for using guns to fix things. I mean, remember, Michelle Bachmann said, I want people in Minnesota armed and dangerous on this issue of the energy tax because we need to fight back. The energy tax means you need guns. We the people are going to have to fight back hard if we're not going to lose our country, to do everything we can to thwart the Democrats at every turn. And apparently that includes armed rebellion. Sharon Angle, remember Sharon Angle running against Harry Reid? She was completely loony out in Nevada. She said, what did she say? She went on and said a number of different things. Her quote was, Second Amendment remedies. Remember Sharon Angle saying, we need to be open to Second Amendment remedies when it comes to politics. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now let's take a look. Natan, put up on the screen the actual image of that newsletter where this was contained in, and let's get an analysis of that going. I want to take a look at that if we can. Here it is. So if you can see, this this is amazing. This part about the armed rebellion is down here in the red square, the part that I read to you. And it's right below a conservative potato and egg delight recipe, which also is part of the Virginia Republican Party newsletter, apparently calling for green onions or parsley for sprinkling in that recipe, Lewis. Interesting that the Republican Party, normally so strict and specific with everything, actually willing to let the cook decide whether parsley or green onions are an appropriate garnish, but
those are
armed
quite
rebellion.
different.
They are quite different. I'm actually surprised. I would take issue. I'm as shocked by the fact that they consider parsley a valid substitute for green onion as that they think that an armed rebellion is valid for political change.
You can't just interchange chives and parsley.
Green onion and parsley.
It's chives.
Green onion is the same thing as chives?
Yeah.
Natan, please look this up. I can't imagine that that's accurate.
I'm going to need a minute.
Okay.
You're talking to the guy who worked in the produce department.
Yeah, chives and green onions are the same thing?
Well, you've never seen an actual green onion, have you?
Yeah, of course you have.
A green onion.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Green onions. They're
all-
the long, you know what green onions are.
Those are basically chives.
Let's let Natan look this up. I can't allow this to slip by again the way that Lewis said that ibuprofen was the same thing as aspirin that time. We are not going to allow that here. I want to give Natan perfectly safe amount of time to determine this. Natan, how is it looking?
Well, let's see. It's the smallest species of edible onions. I can't find if it just includes the green onions. I'm going to need some more time on that.
Well, he'll have to get back to us.
Yeah, I don't think chives are the same thing as green onions. In fact, I would bet just about. I would be pretty safe to say that that's not the case.
We don't have to bet anything.
Fine.
We'll just
We'll figure it out.
You can laugh at me later if you're right.
The University of Colorado, here, speaking about armed rebellions, Lewis, University of Colorado is going to have separate dorms for students with guns. This is a great idea. They're going to segregate dorms for students who have valid permits to carry weapons, concealed weapons, according to the Denver Post. You have to be 21 years old, though, in addition to having a gun permit. This would basically say that if you have these guns, there will be a specific dorm where you are going to have gun owners, and that they're going to be specifically there. It's going to be the downtown family-style housing units. They're going to be upperclassmen dorms. In all other dorms, guns are going to be banned. What do you think about this?
I'm completely neutral on this. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a bad idea.
Why is it not a bad idea? Well, on the one hand, keg parties and guns together, that's a great idea. So that I think is good. And it is true that when the firefights go down, it'll be the gun owners killing each other. Is that a positive?
I mean, I feel like the pros and cons just even out here. You know?
Well, okay. I mean, talk me through it.
Okay. Everyone knows where the gun owners are.
Okay.
Everyone in the building knows everyone else is a gun owner.
Right. So this is interesting. If merely having guns is going to dissuade people from breaking in or committing crimes against these people because they know they have guns, it'll be concentrated there. And if those people believe that simply having a gun will make it less likely that they'll be robbed, they can experiment with that. And it won't impinge on what the non-gun owners have happen in terms of break-ins and burglary.
For example, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure this would be great for fraternity initiations and hazing. Having a ton of guns around is probably going to be good for that.
Depends on the frat.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. We'll see.
Okay, so you don't really care that much about this?
No. I mean, honestly, I think it's just a way to, it's just a method of organization for the school more than anything. Just to keep things in check.
Well, there was a survey done of Tea Partiers, and 55% believe that carrying guns into church is a good idea. This was published by the Public Religion Research Institute, and 55% of Tea Party movement members think they should be allowed to bring concealed guns to church. This was followed by 38% of Republicans who want to bring guns to church, 17% of independents, and only 9% of Democrats who believe in bringing guns to church, which is interesting because Democrats are actually considered completely godless by many Republicans. The idea that they would even care whether there's guns in church suggests that many Democrats are actually going to church.
Well, not around here.
Jesus would want that, I'm sure, right? I mean, guns in church, that's part of course, the gospel
That's
of
what
Jesus.
the Founding Fathers wanted.
The Founding Fathers, too. They're really one and the same in many cases.
Yeah. They all brought AKs to church.
What about guns in the delivery room? When you're having a baby, you just don't know if he or she is going to come out shooting. It's probably better to have guns in the delivery room, too.
You have to protect yourself at all times, especially from the government. I mean, at any second, you could be swarmed by a team of SEALs, and you need to be able to defend yourself with your 22 or your 9mm.
In all seriousness, maybe the decision to allow guns in church should be made by church leadership and the congregation, as opposed to being forced either way by any kind of government. Small government conservatives, remember? Small government conservatives. But the Tea Partiers, they want to make it so that it's illegal to have concealed guns in church. There you go.
That's fine. I'm totally fine with that. I think it's a good idea, actually.
Last poll. A new poll finds that the Tea Party is the political group that is anti-gay by the biggest margin. This is a great analysis by David Pakman over at the New Civil Rights Movement. As it turns out, the Tea Party is against homosexuality the most. This is a new poll that was released by the Washington Post, and members of the Tea Party have the lowest level of support for same-sex marriage by a huge margin. Overall, 53% of adults believe same-sex marriage should be legal, okay? Democrats, 68%. Independents, 57%. Republicans, 30%. Tea Party, 6%. 6% of Tea Party members say they support same-sex marriage. No other group was even close. And what's shocking is that even Republican religious values voters, self-identified, Lewis, 11% believe that same-sex marriage should be legal. Why is this so shocking? Well, it's particularly shocking because the Tea Party, since its inception, has claimed their only concerns are smaller government and lower taxes. This is yet more evidence that, wait a second, this is the group with the lowest acceptance of same-sex marriage. I thought the big concern was small government, not the government legislating that gay people shouldn't get married.
Well, the thing is, for the leaders of the of the Tea Party, that may be true. For the people that might have an IQ over 80, who are actually politicians working in government, those are probably the real issues. but for the thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe even more of people who claim to be Tea Partiers,
right?
well, what are they really?
Well,
They're
there
just
is, yeah.
religious extremists, for lack of a better term, who have just social agendas.
There is some payback for Tea Party members. The Washington Post poll also found that 47% of voters opposed the Tea Party itself. So that's at least something.
Interesting.
All right, let's take a break.
Hey,
After
hold
this.
on. There's
Yeah.
some news about the whole chive issue.
Okay.
Apparently, according to what I found out, they are not the same thing. They're in the same family of plants. They can be used somewhat similarly, but they're not identical.
Well,
Hold on a
stand
second.
corrected.
Before you say anything, Lewis, are you going to say that what you meant was that they were in the same family?
No, I thought they were the same thing.
Victory.
You win.
I love being vindicated.
But they are very, very similar.
Well, they're both green.
They're very similar.
Okay, let's take a break. We'll be back with plenty more after this. Great interview coming up. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to The David Pakman Show.
Luke Melhauser is the executive director of the Singularity Institute for Artificial Intelligence. He's also the author of dozens of popular articles on rationality, neuroscience, artificial intelligence. Great to talk to you, Luke. This is a topic off and on that we've kind of broached on my show, and it's of personal interest to me. I think a good place to start for the audience would be when we talk about artificial intelligence, or maybe more specifically, when you talk about artificial intelligence, what is under that umbrella, and how might that differ from the kind of colloquial understanding of what AI actually is?
Well, there are two forms of artificial intelligence. One is called narrow AI, and that just means a program that is able to figure out how to solve problems in a very narrow domain, like chess, or playing the stock market, or detecting underwater mines from a submarine for the military. And we have lots and lots of those programs, and many of them are better at what they do than humans, and therefore have replaced humans in that capacity in the workforce. Another type of AI is what is now called artificial general intelligence, or AGI, and that is the type of AI that, like humans, is generally capable of achieving goals in the world. So you can drop an AGI in an arbitrary context or even a new environment, and it'll be able to optimize the world according to its preferences. It'll be able to go out and achieve its goals, sort of whatever environment you put it in and roughly whatever goals it has. And we don't have AGI yet, but it looks like one day we will. And so the Singularity Institute exists to study the math of AGI possible architectures and try to figure out what they'll do and whether they'll do things that humans want.
So anything right now that falls under the umbrella of artificial intelligence is not AGI because we've not yet achieved that.
That's right. So IBM's Watson, for example, which recently beat Ken Jennings and other Jeopardy players at Jeopardy, is another type of narrow AI. It's a particularly impressive narrow AI, but it still falls under the heading of narrow AI because it's only good at one thing, and that's playing Jeopardy.
And then maybe this question is would be differently answered based on whether it's a narrow AI or the AGI that potentially is on the horizon. Is artificial intelligence about simulating what we understand to be human intelligence, or is it really something else altogether?
Well, that's a really great question because there are many ways to go about building an AGI, whether it's 10 years from now or 50 years from now or 100 years from now. One way you might do it is to actually emulate a human brain. Just like we can emulate the software of some system, say a Nintendo Entertainment System, you can emulate that on your computer, and you can make it run really, really fast or really slow, but then the games become unplayable. You can do the same thing in principle with the human brain if we knew the structure of the human brain in enough detail, but it would require an enormous amount of computer hardware that I don't think we're going to have anytime in the next 40 to 50 years. The other way to do it is to invent a new method for having a generally artificial intelligent agent in the world. So evolution has already produced this one kind of agent that can generally achieve goals in the world, and that's the human. And we could emulate that, but we might find other algorithms, other processes, other math, other information structures that would allow an agent to be generally intelligent in the world. And there are lots of ways to approach that and lots of people working on that problem. And part of it might just be mashing together lots of discoveries that we've made on the particular features of intelligence, like how to look at the world and recognize objects, and how to move in the world, and how to move in dynamic terrain, and how to reason about math problems, and how to reason about interacting with others, and how to reason about the emotional states of others. If we get AIs, narrow AIs, that are good enough at all of those kinds of things that humans regularly do, you might be able to just piece them together and have an AGI. Or it might require some kind of new fundamental math breakthrough.
So what's realistically kind of on the horizon in the next 5 or so, kind of more short term, that we will see translated into, either that people will see in consumer accessible devices, or at least that we'll be hearing about the research and advancements? Not so much further into the future, but next 5 years, what might we see?
Right. I don't think you'll see AGI in the next 5 years. So you'll mostly just see relatively gradual improvements in various kinds of narrow AI. So in 5 years, Siri on the iPhone will be a little bit better. You'll have lots more robots that can move quickly across unusual terrain, like the ones that Boston Dynamics is building for the US military. We'll have breakthroughs in swarm robotics, which means that you have a lot of usually flying robots that can coordinate and not run into each other, and also dodge obstacles in the environment on the way to their destination. You'll have better translation software. You'll have AI programs that begin to become competitive with human players on the game of Go, which is a lot harder for computers to play than chess, but they'll start to become competitive with humans in the next 5 years. And we'll have self-driving cars, possibly from Google, that will be somewhat better than they are now and actually available for purchase by the public.
Let's talk a little bit about this stereotype that exists in a lot of popular media, including movies, including books, which is this idea, this fear that may be rational, may be irrational, that as AI advances, and maybe it's once we get into an AGI, as you mentioned, inevitably artificial intelligence, robots, etc., will turn against humans, will become so-called evil, whatever evil may be. Is that something that there's any backing for in the scientific community amongst people that are actually doing AI research? Or is there really no reason to believe that humans should be afraid of what would happen if we have an AGI?
Well, the robot rebellion idea that AIs will become evil goes way back to the 1921 Czech play that introduced the term robot. And in that movie, the robots rebel against humanity, and it's been a very common storyline since then in the Terminator, the Matrix, etc. But it's very important when we try to think about what AI will do that we not do what's called generalizing from fictional evidence. We don't want to take fictional evidence into account when we're trying to consider what AIs will do. And in particular, we don't want to anthropomorphize artificial intelligence. We humans have a tendency to model other agents as being just like humans, but a little bit different. So you get aliens from other worlds light years away in movies being basically just like humans, but maybe with big eyes and lasers coming out of their fingers or something, And that's just not respecting the variety of possibilities that there are for having an agent design that goes out in the world and does things. And so if you want to figure out what an AI will do, you can't model it the way you would model a human. You have to actually look at the math of what an AI will do, because AIs are made of math, and you have to look at the math and watch and look at the math and see what it will do. So with AGI in particular, AGIs will be the kind of intelligent agents that are able to, that have goals about the world and will go out and try to optimize the world for the achievement of those goals. And when you have a system like that, the AI will probably be motivated by a very specific set of goals. It's called its utility function for the math geeks out there. But these very specific set of goals is what it will care about, and it won't care about anything else. And the AI, unless it has human common sense in the math of the AI somehow, will not have our normal human sense. And so suppose that a paperclip factory programs the AI to maximize the number of paper clips that it produces. And so then it makes a bunch of efficiency improvements in the factory and has all these robots whizzing around the factory, and they run over some humans and kill some people. And then the AI programmers realize, oh wait, okay, so maximize paper clips and also don't kill humans. And so then the AI will start doing that, and it won't kill humans, but maybe it runs over and injures some. And so the AI programmers think, oh, we forgot to put that in the math of the AI. Okay, AI, now, they're typing away, maximize the number of paper clips you produce, and don't kill humans, and protect humans from harm. Well, as it turns out, humans harm themselves a lot. And so now the AI ties up all the humans and feeds them with feeding tubes. And so the AI programmers are like, oh no, that's not what we wanted, so we have to go back and program again. And the problem is that to represent what humans actually care about, it sounds simple in English, because we all have common sense about things like, oh, and also don't kill humans. But it's very, very complicated to put human goals into math, and very difficult to do that. And so if you have the math just a little bit wrong, then the powerful artificial general intelligence will be pursuing goals that are slightly at cross purposes to you. And that's a big problem, because humans do that all the time. We have cross purposes with each other, and sometimes we kill millions of other humans, but it never gets so bad that we wipe out the entire species or something like that, because in the end, even Hitler can be killed with a single bullet, and we're not that much more powerful than each other. But an artificial general intelligence could copy itself across the internet, make billions of copies of itself, do new science and invent new weapons technology. It could have a brain the size of a warehouse instead of what's restricted to the human skull. So when you've got a powerful system like that that is trying to achieve goals that are just slightly different from your own, it becomes very worrisome for the creature that is now the lesser of the powers in the world.
All right, fascinating stuff. We've been speaking with Luke Melhauser, Executive Director of the Singularity Institute for Artificial Intelligence. Really great to speak with you, and we'll definitely have you back.
Great to be here.
Okay, we'll take a break. We'll be back with plenty more. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. The best way to support the David Pakman Show, become a member. davidpakman.com/membership. So many benefits at this point, Louis, that I can't even list them all. We would have to do a whole segment just on member benefits, which I refuse to do.
I think the best benefit would be if you told the story you just told me on the bonus show.
Right. It's an interesting story, yeah, but that may be for another time.
Okay.
If we get 10,000 members, I'll do that.
Wow. Okay, I'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
Of course, that means that more people will hear it.
Yeah.
So you have to weigh that.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
Pat Robertson suggests don't adopt sexually abused children or children with mental issues because they might grow up being weird. I guess that would be kind of like Pat Robertson. I don't know. Here's the video of him explaining his brilliant child rearing advice.
Susan says, I'm the mother of 3 adopted girls. I find the men I date are okay when I tell them I have 3 daughters, but when they find out that they're adopted and from 3 different countries and not my own biological children, they don't want to date anymore. Whether I tell them up front or after a couple dates, all the men are reacting the same way. They say they could be okay if the girls were, biological children and came with child support. Why are these men reacting this way? Can I answer? 'Cause I was going to say dogs.
Don't you insult my
I'm not going to say dogs, but that's just wrong on every level.
No, it's not wrong.
It's wrong.
I mean, a man doesn't want to take on the United Nations, and this woman's got all these various children and a blended family. I mean, what is it? And You don't know what problems are. I'm serious. I've got a dear friend, adopted some little kid from an orphanage down in Colombia. Child had brain damage. You know, grew up weird. And you just never know what's been done to a child before you get that child. What kind of sexual abuse
same
it's
language
been,
used
what
to
kind
talk
of
about
cruelty,
dogs.
what kind of food deprivation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're not a dog because you don't want to take on that responsibility. You don't have to take on somebody else's problems. I mean, you really don't. You can go help people. You could minister to people. We ministered to orphans all over the world, thousands of them. We love orphans. We love help.
This is
Yeah, as
incredible.
long as they stay orphans, he loves them.
This is unbelievable because he's, number one, he's telling people who adopt that you don't need to take on someone else's problems. Listen, the reason somebody would even want to adopt is because they want to help somebody who's having a problem, which may include not having parents, number one.
Yeah.
But number two, imagine, Lou, and Natan, you're right. He's talking about children the way you would talk about cars. Listen,
Dogs.
the car's used, and it may come with some problems. You don't know if the thing's been in an accident. You just don't know. Get a new car. I mean, forget about this. It's the same. For Pat Robertson, the same language for vehicle purchases is the language he uses for adoption.
And it's just assumed that these children have some type of problem, I guess.
Of course, they might grow up weird
Because
like Pat Robertson.
why? I mean, you can't take on these problems if you're dating this woman.
Listen, here's advice. Don't adopt mentally abused children that have been subjected to religious dogma by people like Pat Robertson because they might grow up and be like Pat Robertson.
Whatever you do, don't play the 700 Club for your young children because that will almost certainly make them grow up weird.
Definitely adult situations in that show.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, real quick, voicemail. Remember this voicemail from the Eggman? Take a listen to this.
Hi, guys. Good morning. I had a question and a comment about private prison companies making money off of their inmates. I was in the federal prison system in FCI Wasika.
Okay, so that made me think the Eggman's been in prison? So we got this picture from the Eggman. He says he is one of these four gentlemen. Because the Eggman has explained that he's Jewish, I'm going to guess it's not the black man because the odds of there aren't that many black Jews in the United States. So
Okay.
I'm just going to, statistically speaking, rule that out. Which of these gentlemen do you think is the Eggman? The man on the far left just doesn't strike me as what the Eggman would look like. So I'm really looking at the middle two guys here.
That's what I was thinking too, but I can't make up my mind.
Okay, I'm gonna guess that the Eggman is the individual in the with the darker beard, one to the left from the African American gentleman. That's my guess. That's who I'm going with. Lewis?
That would have been my guess too.
Okay, Natan, who are you going with?
I guess just for the sake of argument, I'll say the guy to his right. So the
to
guy
his
with
right,
the white
to our
shirt.
left on the picture.
To our left.
Okay, so number two going from left to right.
Right.
Okay, Eggman, let us know which one of these guys you are, and also please let us know why were you in prison?
If you'd like to disclose that.
Well, I think it would be fascinating.
It would be. I'm fascinated by this. So.
Okay, let's get to a couple of quick voicemails. Let's take one voicemail because we are running low on time.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hey, David. Francisco here from New York. My question to you is the election's coming up, and what do you think, or who do you think will win this election? And what do you think the electoral votes are going to turn out? You know, which state will Obama lose or win? Which is in play? And, you know, if Obama wins, how many votes will he get, the electoral votes? And if Mitt Romney wins, you know, what would that turn out to be?
Okay, so I've said I think that the president will eventually be reelected. I'm going to wait to do a full electoral vote analysis and prediction in a couple scenarios. That is coming up, though, so thank you, Paco, or Francisco, if you don't go by the nickname. I do apologize. Two quick emails, Lewis. Do we have time?
Yes.
On Crossroads Generation. All the Crossroads Generation videos have more dislikes than likes and have barely over 1,000 views. They also disable comments on many of them. That's fine, but they have plenty of money.
Yes.
And on Mitt Romney and his campaign slogan, Believe in America. Romney's campaign slogan is Believe in America. Apparently, Romney doesn't even believe in his own slogan, because if he actually believed in America, he wouldn't be seeking campaign funding overseas. Let me take it one step further. He wouldn't be outsourcing jobs to China. He wouldn't be keeping his money in Swiss banks. So there's a number of different things Mitt Romney wouldn't be doing if he did not, if he actually did believe in America. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Please join us on the bonus show, davidpakman.com/membership. It's hosted and produced by producer Louis Motamedi. It's a hell of a show.
It's the best David Pakman Show bonus show there is.
Maybe soon it'll be renamed as the Louis Motamedi Show.
Maybe.
I don't know. All right, we'll see you tomorrow if you're not getting that bonus show.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.